G harmonica in my hands right now. Talking about building sort of improvisation ideas or your solos in general off of rhythmic ideas rather than thinking or focusing on chasing licks. This is one of the angles that I'll be covering in the class tomorrow with Grant Dermody called improvisation angles. So let's take a minute and talk about what this means. I'm going to share with you a little bit of insight as to what I'm going to do with one of my angles. This is one of 6 angles that'll be covered in class tomorrow. So again, I've got a G harmonica in my hand. That little thing I just played at the intro is filled with rhythmic ideas. And hello to anybody that's already tuning in. I see a member, Steve. Thanks for being a member and joining this channel. I really appreciate your support. It encourages me to be as active as I can on this channel. Of course, you get perks when you're a member as well, so be sure to check that out. Everything I talk about regarding this class can be rediscovered by going to harmonica123.com and just looking at the homepage. So how can you use rhythmic ideas to build solos, and what does that mean? To me, it means, again, I said this, but not chasing licks or just melodic riffing or phrasing. It means using the power of infusing rhythm into simpler ideas or just a simplified idea like this. Just that. What does that imply by me hitting 3/6 blow twice? Depends on the context, I suppose, of what you're playing to. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that this alleviates a lot of pressure on you as a solo or as an improviser, let's say, or I was going to say soloist, to not be chasing the next idea. It keeps you in the moment and connected to the song. So it's another huge benefit is that if you're playing a shuffle versus a funk versus a rumba, there's going to be different rhythmic accents that we can think about. So let me just play a couple off the cuff here. I don't know what I'm going to do, but let's just see what happens. Hey, Charlie. Welcome again, Chris and John, some members tuning in. Appreciate you guys being here. So like I'm playing a shuffle. Would I just start riffing? If I didn't have a band, especially, I'm not playing to a backing track or working with a band, what would some of that sound like? It kind of is in the category of the front porch style that I've shared with you guys. So you might want to have something ready to go that you would do without the band that you can work on bringing into when you're playing with other people. So that idea of the shuffle is emulating that the shuffle groove with these accents really focused on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 2 blow is a good idea for that, for focusing on the 2 and the 4. Again, a G harmonica. But you don't need to play the chord in the single note. You could just go. Something very simplified. So in class, I'm going to be exploring on that angle various ways to think about these different grooves and styles of blues and how I rhythmically interact to get away from chasing just the licks, okay? By the way, this might be the very last live stream I ever do right here via my phone. If I check this audio and it's not up to par, that means all the live streams will be kind of the horizontal version through my computer, which don't have that issue. It's unfortunate. I can still record videos with this, but the live streaming, we'll see. You can let me know in the comments how the audio is doing so far. So let's talk about like funk for a minute. There's a lot of different style, types of funk and ways to play funk, but that first thing I played is very similar to something you could do in that, just to emulate it. If you can do this without a backing track or without a band, you've really got a hang of it. But going, Let's actually try this together. If you can't play 3/6 blow, just use 6 blow and play it twice with me in one beat. Just get that part. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just grab your G harp and focus on that 6 blow. And then I'm letting 2 beats of rest go by and it's getting the upbeat. That just means when your foot's going up and catching a note on that. And that catching that upbeat is what helps imply more of that funk groove. So I'm going, I'm gonna slow this way down. One, two. The rest of the riff, what can you hear there? Four bend, 4 blow, 3 half step, 2 draw. That's the riff that I'm playing. So when you play with this rhythmic intent, it doesn't mean that you can't play a lick. It just means that there's this implication of more of a rhythmic foundation happening in your playing. And when you bring this into your solos, it's so much easier to get connected to the music because you're so tied into what the groove is doing. Make sense? So that when you leave it and play a riff, you're so directly connected to the groove, just like we're doing here. So I'm going to play this a few times, and I'm going to see if you guys can catch this. Now, what would you do from there? Would you just sit with that one rhythmic thing and one lick and that's your solo? Not at all. I think what my strategy often is to take something that can ground me in the beginning of a solo. I do this a lot so that I'm not saying too much. I'm just building a nice foundation and grooving with the band. And again, that often can be done by implying just rhythmic stuff through chords or single notes, or the combination of what we're doing here, something very rhythmic with then a lick and back to this rhythmic accent on the 6th blow. But then when I depart from that, I'm keeping that in my head as I move. So again, I'm not even doing this with a backing track, but I can imagine and get creative in my mind as to what that would sound like. So I'm just going to try to go for it here with nothing and just see what happens. So as soon as I'm noticing, as soon as I leave the rhythmic stuff, the next kind of melodic phrase that I play is directly going to be tied in or influenced by that rhythmic accent. So and all the licks tend to be more rhythmic when I'm doing that. And notice they're simplified. This is just one thing you can be thinking about when you're going to go play a solo. One angle. And it can be applied, like I said, to just a basic shuffle. Apply it to anything, a funk, a rumba. And a lot of it feeds off of, bass lines sometimes, but not always, and the rumba, it does help to grab some of these kind of notes that would be directly correlated to the bass line. But you hear the chord coming in? So let me just tell you what I'm doing. I'm hitting the 1, 2, 3 draw, and then just playing 3 half step bend and 4 draw. That's it. Then I doubled up on that chord. So this is just one more example. Again, totally different feel, different groove. But the focus for me tends to be on either the chords or some sort of rhythmic accent that grounds me. So the more you can do this on your own without a band or backing track, the stronger you'll become as an improviser. Because then when the band's taking the weight of that and playing the groove, you can just settle. Even I could even argue that when I'm not playing something chordal based and all that, I can still just come in and just be like, by using space, and quick accents, 2 notes, a little bit of a call and response. And that, again, is sort of tied to this topic because I'm not thinking of going, I'm not moving around fast, and I'm not playing these more melodic legato style lines. Make sense? Legato being more of that. So contrast it. All right, let me just end on something that I haven't talked about, just to demonstrate. Another one I want to talk about in class would be like when you're approaching quicker tempos, like a swing, something like that. Like what might you do to because I think what happens when a lot of players, or what I hear is that when they're tackling like a trying to solo over something fast, especially like a up tempo, West Coast swing blues or something like that, they tend to chase the groove and the tempo and the chord changes. And what I mean by chase it is I often hear people just playing too much and overplaying and trying to match the energy and the tempo. And you don't need to do that. You could contrast it. So if the band's going, so they're doing that, I might be going something very simplified with a little more space. But I will absolutely be using more of that rhythmic intention inside of my playing again, to not get caught in this sort of like crazy chasing of the groove and the tempo that's happening. So when you're playing something really fast, slow down. Use more space in your music. You'll find that it's much easier and it sounds a little more appropriate for the song. That's my talk today. That's what's on my mind. I hope some of you can join us tomorrow in whoa. I hope some of you can join us tomorrow in class. Class starts at 1 p.m. Central Time. I'm almost certain. Let me just double check. Yeah, 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Central. Everything's recorded. There will be some notes going on, but those are my topics for today. If you're joining late on this live stream, and you're like, oh no, Ronnie's wrapping it up, go watch this. Go back and watch it. I shared a handful of ideas that you can kind of latch onto, hopefully, from this clip. And if you're so inclined and you want to up your game, your improvisation game, join the class tomorrow with Grant Dermody and myself starting at 1 p.m. Central. Everything's located at harmonica123.com. Whoops. Here, I'll tell you what's going on. I'll end you with this because I didn't even say it. Okay, here's what's cool. If you are joining, you might want to hear this, or even if you're considering going, this is what's going to be happening in class. Never done this before, but in this particular class, we're going to go back and forth on the various angles. Instead of Grant teaching an entire, let's say almost like an hour session, and then I'll do an hour, we're going to go back and forth 15 to 20 minutes per angle. So Grant, in fact, I got it already organized. Grant's going to start with note choice, talking about chord tones, how that can help you find good note choices. I'm going to then go into talking about beyond scales and kind of jumps and intervals that can really switch up your playing. And I'll talk about outside scale notes. Then Grant's going to jump in and talk about space and how he utilizes it within improvisation. Then I'm going to get into this topic that I did here today, but deeper, talking about rhythmic ideas for building solos. How can we use that in various grooves and styles? Then Grant's going to get into building solos on various beats, when to come in with plenty of examples. And I'll end it with phrasing. And I think that's my most comprehensive section or angle that I'll talk about. Taking something that you already know and figuring out, 18 different ways to play it based on context, or even in the same context. How can you take one thing and work on phrasing and really say something different? So I've got a ton of ideas to share. Um, I even have more ideas than this, but this is the sort of the base for what the class is going to be built off of. And then after that, maybe we'll share a couple other random tips with the group. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out here today with me. It was a pleasure to see all of you. Make it a wonderful day.